So if you can just give us some background of your education that you've had so far.
Fields are immaterial because education is a way of thinking. Because I have this attention deficiency syndrome.
No, you're genuinely saying that you had that, or are you joking right now?
Joking.
Okay,
I
thank
would
goodness.
say-
Okay, all right. What was your experience that the earthquake was a mayhem?
36 or 40 hours we had visited each and every single project. He's building a design, don't worry. If you want, we will stay, No, we were confident about what our design was. Unlike social problems, engineering problems are easier to solve.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to TREC Conversations. At the Real Estate Connect, we are committed to providing the best real estate consultancy to our clients and also keep them up to date with what's happening in the real estate world. TREC Conversation is part of the same vision where we make you meet and know the stalwarts of real estate industry. Today, we have with us a name that needs no introduction, and his last name is a brand in itself that represents trust, quality, and transparency since last 6 decades. Mr. Pavan Bakeri, Managing Director of Bakeri Group, is a person of many interests. Apart from heading Bakeri Construction, Pavan Bhai is President of Alliance Francaise, which is a representation of France in Gujarat. He is also a founding member and a current President of Indo-American Education Society, is also the Director of FX Data Labs, which is a data science company. Let's start this conversation with none other than Mr. Pavan Bakeri himself. Thank you very much, Pavan Bhai, for accepting this invitation and coming to our office for this TREC conversation.
You're very welcome, and it's an honor to be here.
Thank you so much, Pavan Bhai. Without any further ado, we would like to start with the questions that I have designed for you. You, of course, come from a family that has a legacy of real estate industry, but your education is completely in a different field. So if you can just give us some background of your education that you've had so far and how you transitioned into the real estate world.
First of all, I think education is education.
Right.
Fields are immaterial because education is a way of thinking.
Wow.
It's not what you study precisely,
Right.
So I wouldn't say it's a different field. It's still in the field of education. What I've learned helps me in whatever I do, just
Correct.
not business, but in anything that I do, whether it's personal growth, business growth, or social growth.
Right.
But yes, my formal education was in my research was in composites, which are these advanced materials, polymer composites, which are used in aerospace. So the stealth bombers in the first Gulf War were composites. That's the first time they were used.
Okay.
Then, of course, now the Dreamline and commercial applications have happened in the last 5-7 years. So the Dreamliner is the first major commercial airliner, which is about nearly 90% composite.
Right.
The Airbus had started that, but about 20% in commercial airliners about 10 years ago. But even today, you have the military, which has major applications, whether it's in the field of military construction, like you have to lay a bridge deck across a river quickly so that your tanks can roll or your people can go across when you're capturing enemy territory or defending your own. Or it's nuclear subs, and of course aircrafts and drones have now using
Right.
so much of composites.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So, and your skis, I mean, it's like, George Bernard Shaw said that one is speaking, he was speaking prose all his life without knowing it. One is using composites all, in one's life without knowing that. Like skis, a lot of high-end shoes, sports shoes, they use a lot of composites.
Oh wow! And so that's the specialization that you did in the education. But how, like real estate transition? How did that work? How you came back to real estate world? That is a legacy of your family.
Yes. So when I first came back, I didn't know whether I would want to do real estate because I have this attention deficiency syndrome. So it's ADS.
Right.
So I started I first looked around and then.
No, you're genuinely saying that you had that, or are you joking right now?
Joking.
Okay,
I
thank goodness. Okay, all right.
I get more.
Thanks that I clarified that.
Yeah, I
for
would be paying
myself.
attention to your questions.
Yeah.
You want that, right?
Yes.
But I need to do several things. If I'm reading something, I need to have at least 10 books. So depending upon the mood of the moment,
Right.
and the time of the day, my books would change, my reading material would change, and likewise with work,
Right.
or other work. So I started a renewables company which was into solar and wind. So I did a lot of experimental work in that.
Right.
This was in the 93-94 period, just almost immediately after I came back. Then our software company, an IT company, and I'm still involved in IT. I run a company which is into AI, machine learning part of AI,
Right.
and computer vision. So that's that, and I'm still involved not in renewables because in those days it was mostly a tax gimmick. One would find wind farms not producing, just lying stagnant, but the owners would have taken the tax breaks.
Right.
So the income tax breaks and the local taxes, sales tax and all of that. There were huge incentives. And solar was still too expensive then, so it wasn't commercially viable.
Right.
But so it was probably ahead of the time. Then after 6-7 years of barking up the wrong tree, I would say I kind of moved away from that.
Okay.
And then of course we have 2004-5 and it just takes off.
Right.
But once it takes off, something which you have worked on for such a long time and it doesn't take off, you don't want to get back into that. It's just
Right.
psychological.
Yes.
So that is something that just happened and I didn't get back into it. But now of course solar is the
Huge thing.
yeah, it's huge, right? And in India, I think we are wanting 70-80% of our generation by 2050 from renewables. And at least I think 50% by 2035. I think that's the goal, the commitments we have made in the Paris Accord in the World Meeting.
Okay.
So India's commitment. And 2070, I think, will be 100% renewables. That's the vision that our Prime Minister and the commitments our Prime Minister has made. And which is great. So, and I don't think any other country in the world is addressing this on the scale that India is, not even China.
Which is very good.
Yeah, especially for solar. For solar, we have mega plants. One would have thought that this kind of thinking would not be possible in India. But I tell you, in the last 10 years, we are just thinking mega.
Nice.
In whatever we do. It flows from the top. So if we have the vision for a country, then that kind of vision creeps into the individuals in any enterprise, whether it's education, it's a social enterprise, people are thinking big, it's a business enterprise, people are thinking big. So that transition wasn't so difficult because, and I also did my couple of first projects. One was a residential plotted development on the edges of town and in Rachada, and the other one was a office building. So I said, okay, these are two projects, different spheres, and the company said, you'll cut your teeth, you'll learn the ropes. It was a small commercial project, so that's how I started residential. Also at the same time, I did my renewables project, residential plotting and commercial building. So that was again 93-94 period times. So it was all these things simultaneously. Renewables, software, and residential and real estate.
Yes. Lovely. Pavan, tell us more about your ventures of IT and renewables.
Yes. So as I said, renewables, for 5-6 years I worked in it, but then found out that people were not really geared to producing power.
Correct.
And those days the policies encouraged just setting up the farms, wind farms or solar farms, but not actually producing. You still got everything. Now, of course, things have changed. You set up farms and you have net metering, so you are encouraged to produce. If you don't produce, you don't gain anything.
Right.
So I think that's why we can do the large projects that we are doing now in India. And in the IT field, that version of one of the pioneers in voice recognition and voice over IP. And then in the last 6-7 years, we are focused on machine learning, artificial intelligence. It's 7 years now. So we were the early movers there as well.
Wow.
So, and as part of my formal education, in my graduate studies at MIT, I was also part of a research project which did artificial intelligence in the early days. I wouldn't say the early days, but obviously the technology had not matured. The field had not matured.
Ahead of its time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, AI as a field was first propagated by people like Marvin Minsky, Samuel Papert at MIT in the late 50s, and Noam Chomsky, the linguist. Okay, so the early 50s, 60s. Okay, but again, computing power was not what it was those days. So they laid the framework, the theoretical framework. Out of these three fathers of AI, as the world would call them, Noam Chomsky is still alive. Okay, he's a professor emeritus at MIT. He's a world famous linguist, and that's one great thing about higher education or education in the US and some countries is that being a linguist, you're doing pioneering work in the field of artificial intelligence. So the applications are, how does the brain think? How does language evolve? and those that knowledge, they're working with computer scientists and all of that. So it is like, how do you transition from that kind of field and learning and your educational background to something like real estate? So there's actually no transition. It's just a different kind of application.
Yes.
At the basis of it, your engineering and mathematical, physics and whatever background that you have, it remains the same. The laws of science, the laws of physics, the laws of mathematics don't change.
Correct.
It's just the application. Just looking at that particular problem with the knowledge you have, but with a different set of lenses.
Right. Pavan bhai, talking about real estate, your real estate journey, in the very early period of your career when you started real estate, one massive thing that came into our lives was the earthquake. And very few developers who can relate it to today. This is a question that I had asked to NK sir also from Sun. That what was your experience that the earthquake was a mayhem? A lot of real estate developers were under a trauma and so on and so forth. What was your experience through those days with regards to the situation it was, with regards to your buildings and your members or customers in those buildings and so on?
So what we did in the aftermath of the earthquake on 26th January 2001, it was around 9 a.m. In the first few hours we were all grappling with our own issues, right? Then we said, we got our wits together. It was a holiday. So, I think the same evening we took a call to congregate together the entire engineering team, junior to the most senior, and we found ourselves into 10 teams, around 10 teams. I don't know, but it was somewhere around 10, and each team would have around 5 members, 4 to 5 members, 2 senior and 2 junior or 3 juniors, or mid-level, 1 mid-level and 1 or 2 juniors, and we. In the next 24 to 36 hours, beginning with our high-rise buildings, and then to our low-rise buildings, then to the individual bungalow homes that we have done, and then to projects which we had only consulted in the 60s, where we were only consultants, as structural consultants or whatever. They would not be our projects. We outlined everything. We organized ourselves that, okay, this team will address this buildings, these projects in this order. And we had the maximum footprint of the real estate footprint on the ground. When the earthquake struck. So across Gujarat. And so, but in 36 or 40 hours, we had visited each and every single project, did rigorous examination, and we found that we were pretty okay. Because we had designed as per building codes then prevalent. Then the building codes have subsequently changed. So by and large, we didn't have issue. There would have been minor issues of partition walls cracking, which they're meant to crack, but we had to just tell the members that, look, this is not a structural crack. In fact, there's one specific example, which I remember clearly, is that these are designed to crack. So we had used an analogy in our township, Bakeri city, which at that point in time was known as Srinagar. We had 1,000 members or more assembled within, I think, 70 hours after the earthquake, and we had a detailed presentation. So we said, okay, these are the number of columns in the entire project so far, the 1,500, 2,000 units that we had made by then. And then out of these columns, these are the columns which may have developed some cracks. We have examined the structural, they still have structural integrity, but we'll fix that. These are the cracks in the walls, which actually should have cracked because they are the sacrificial forms. If they don't crack, the columns get damaged. So in a car, when the Maruti first came out, the front 800 in the late 80s, early 90s, people say, oh, this entire car is getting crushed.
Crushed. There's no strength in the car.
But actually, if the old ambassadors and Fiats were made so rigid that the whole steering wheel, if you had a head-on collision, the whole steering wheel came in and crushed your chest. Those days there were no airbags. Okay, so these are known as crumple zones. They are supposed to take in the impact and dissipate the energy. So physicists understand that, mathematicians understand that, structural engineers understand that. So buildings are designed like that. So we were good. We are designed as per the way the buildings have to be designed. So we didn't go out of the way to design something for the earthquake, but we just did what we had to do as a profession.
The job,
And so we were intact. And to address these issues, to create more comfort in the minds of our members, we actually sent out teams, properly clad and everything, professional workers and all of that, supervised by experienced engineers. And we also fixed those non-structural cracks, and free of cost. The walls even.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, the columns, of course, wherever they had developed cracks, but even the walls we fixed. So we were not expected to fix the walls. I mean, in the context of 2001 and India's context, you are not even expected to fix the cost. The society would just hire a structural engineering firm
Right.
and then pay the cost. But we did that. So a lot of sacrifices have been made. But we don't think we have done anything exceptional. We think this is what an engineer has to do, or a professional firm has to do, and we did it.
That's
But
what
people
has
think that
created-
we have done something extraordinary, but we ourselves as professionals don't think that we have done. We have just done what we are supposed to do, what the client has paid us to do.
Well, that's the philosophy that represents or created Bakeri, the name it is, I think, in the market, because the things that are just given, not a lot of developers do that, but you guys take it so seriously, and that's what the trust has been established for.
But it's
so
not
many
exceptional. The
generations.
point I'm trying to make is not exceptional. It's what
Right.
any firm, any professional
Should
firm,
be doing it.
whether it's in the field of chartered accountancy or a financial consultancy
Correct.
firm or a legal firm or a consultant or a real estate firm or an IT firm, you're paid, you have to do it. Your columns have to function, your walls have to, walls of course they are meant to
Correct.
be destroyed, but that we went out of the way
Correct.
to do it because the members don't know it, the
Right.
occupants of the building don't know that these are actually designed to, take the energy. So we did that. Because the optics are important as well. So
Right.
we fixed the walls, but the columns had to function. We
Amazing.
had designed it as per the codes, but the codes are then subsequently revised
Right.
based on the knowledge of the earthquake. Because earthquake science also is a pretty messy science.
Okay.
It's also some part of it is art. The math is not fully understood. So
You're dealing with nature.
so
at
yeah,
that,
exactly.
right?
So when these kind of incidences happen and a lot of learning happens, science and math and engineering is an evolving profession.
Correct.
It's not the end of science or the end of engineering and the end of math.
But I'm sure your members would have got a lot of peace of mind with whatever this gesture that you had done for them.
And not only that, we said these buildings are designed, and don't worry. If you want, we will stay.
Just to make sure that
we'll
the
stay
peace of
for the
mind.
next 1 week.
Yeah.
If you think that they're unsafe, so
Right.
please don't come out and in winter, in the chill of winter, many of them had parked themselves in the common spaces, the lawns.
Right.
So he said, don't go back. Yeah, absolutely, don't worry. Just rest assured and sleep without a care in the world. And if you want, we will stay.
Absolutely amazing. That's really nice.
No, we were confident about what our design
The
was. So.
buildings were.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's an engineering problem.
Right.
Unlike social problems, engineering problems are easier to solve.
It's easier to deal with.
Yeah.
It's a science
Because
involved.
it's a math and science.
Yes.
It's pretty.
Correct.
So the social things which are the most difficult. Never understand how a human being thinks and behaves. And all.
Correct.
So.
Talking about social, Pavan bhai, you are a person of many interests, and please tell us something about your non-professional side. For example, you are affiliated with Gujarati Sahitya Parishad or Alliance Française. So if you can just tell us more about that.
Yes. So those are the literature and so I've been pretty eclectic in my tastes in terms of my interests. So ever since I was a child, I used to just read anything under the sun. I was like a voracious reader. I would consider any time not spent on actually holding a book as being wasted. So somebody else would be tying my shoelaces because that's time wasted.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I'm ashamed of it now.
Wow, that's next level.
Or somebody else would be feeding me till I was well into my teens,
Okay.
because I thought feeding myself was a waste of time. I could, read a book in the same time,
Unreal.
So yeah, I'm ashamed of it. So it's not something I'm proud of.
Today,
Yeah,
in hindsight.
in hindsight. And there's a foresight of hindsight, right? But yes, anything which is, I wasn't holding a book in my hand was a waste of time. And that's why I'm not on social media, because that would take away. Anyway,
lot of time.
now, with all the social institutions that I'm involved with, I don't, I regret not being able to hold a book as often that I would like to hold it.
Right.
But so I'm cutting out the clutter and not be part of social media. But so social is not only so that's one literature and culture, which is the Alliance Française. That's also language.
Right.
But I'm also involved with the underprivileged children's education and vocational training of girls and women, and heritage with INTAC and
Right.
other activities. So it's all various fields.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Bakeri is known for, Bakeri Group as in, is known to get affiliated with for a lot of non-profit work or a lot of work that represents cause for the society and so on. And Bakeri has done a lot of those. If you can just shed some light on that.
So Jivraj Mehta Hospital, which is the Bakeri Medical Research Center, that we have been involved from almost its inception. So we contribute a lot of our resources, time and all sorts of resources on that.
Okay.
The field of education, health.
Right.
So Gujarat is taking away a lot of resources
Right.
in the last 20-25 years. But we've also done work with other hospitals, like the kidney hospital in Nadia, Mujibejitavi Hospital, what
Okay.
it's
Nice.
now called as. And then also for the city,
Right.
park, with one of the first, actually the first probably, public-private partnership for
Right.
roadside tree plantation in
Right.
the mid-90s, 94,
Right.
95, 96, and also parks.
Right.
So like Bikhabe Jivabe Garden, which straddles the Nehru Bridge, the riverfront between Nehru Bridge and Ellis Bridge.
Right.
That was done by us, and we planned an art gallery
Right.
there as well, and an
Right.
amphitheater where one could perform. So we do all these kind of things which are a little different.
Right.
It's just not a park where you take a stroll and enjoy nature, but you enjoy art.
Mm.
You have performances, so it was planned,
Right.
with amphitheaters and an art gallery
Right.
and everything. So, and again, as a group, a symphony, which is my elder brother looks after that. So we have done a very lovely, very unique park here behind Gurudwara,
Okay.
Gorak Dev Cottage area.
Okay.
So that's like a tropical forest in the middle of the city.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it's a lovely park. And it has been covered by international magazines as well.
Oh, I've never been there.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
make a
called
point
Symphony
to
Park.
go
Yeah, it's
there, yes.
incredible. Incredible. You will not think that you are in this neck of the woods.
Oh, nice. So nice. That's amazing. And that's a lot of giving back to the community
Yes,
that
that's
you
very
got so
different.
much back
What we did in
from.
'95, the Pikachu Garden, that's also very unique. Then with the roundabout that we did with geodesic domes here near Navrang School.
Navdeep
Navdeep,
Crossroads.
yeah, that also was done by us
Nice.
in the mid-90s. Yeah, so we have been doing our bit. Not
Amazing.
enough, but whatever we do, we try to do.
Bakeri Construction so far has done a lot of projects. There's a ton of projects in the market that are being created and completed by Bakeri project. It's all standing tall and they all speak about quality and so on. Which is one of your favorite ones out of all the projects that Bakeri has done so far? Which is your favorite project and why?
So of course, one remembers one's first projects, so the Suramir 2, which was my first project when I came back in the early 90s, that is because of that. But I think some of the things that we have done at Bakeri City, because it has been done on a limited, we had to cater to a segment of the population where we had to really give immense value for money, because these are people, who have, who really work a lot. They are middle income, pay taxes, and salary, take loans, so they have that stress.
Mm-hmm.
So the kind of value we have given, the small things that we have taken care of in the design, apart from quality. I mean, a lot of people give quality nowadays, but the small things that we have taken care of in the design, we don't talk about them a lot.
Right.
But it's only once you start living that you would not know why you feel nice,
Right.
in your apartment or in your unit.
Right.
But those are because of small design interventions.
Okay. So if you can give an example of that.
So we take compared to the cost of those units, we give a lot of openings.
Okay.
Which more luxurious apartments had not given in the past.
Okay.
Now, of course, in the last 7, 8 years, 10 years, we see incredible amount of good design everywhere across all developments. So, so that is one. Openings on a per square foot of the area of the unit.
Nice.
That's very, very high.
Right. Especially when the houses are very small.
Exactly. So, and then openings cost a lot of money. They cost a bomb.
Correct.
When you give window opening, door
Right.
openings and all of that. So that percentage is pretty high. And also, small things like some of the buildings would have been without elevators, because these would be G+3. Then the staircase design is such, the gradient is that you can climb up without being out of breath, even if you're not physically very fit.
Nice.
So those things. Then we try to shade the walls so that your energy costs go down.
Okay.
Small things. We give clotheslines even in the small units of 1 and 2 BHK. And so everything is uniform. You don't have your design. I mean, you may have a different clothesline in your balcony, and I would have a different one. And once your apartment is completed, everybody puts their clotheslines as per their budget and taste. Then the whole thing is a shambles.
Correct.
I mean, in terms of it disturbs the elevation. So we decided, even at the cost of, it's a lot of money when you're comparing it to the cost of the apartment. So we give that, and from day one, you are not hassled with calling a carpenter and doing it, because you need to wash your clothes and you need to hang it to dry. Not everybody has a dryer.
Correct.
And it's not even recommended. With our sun, the kind of sunlight we have,
Why
waste energy and increase the carbon footprint? So we should try to take care of nature. So we do all of that. Natural light and ventilation, again, saves carbon, and you feel nice and it's healthier.
Right. That's amazing. Pawan bhai, while we're talking about projects, you are coming up with an amazing project. That's a golf community that you're developing out just outside Ahmedabad, like city lines. And we also take a lot of pride in promoting that project right now. So if you can just let us know, let our audience know more about that project.
Yes. So it's the whole philosophy was that we had stayed away from golf courses for such a long time was because we felt they were unsustainable, and that was something against what we as a company stand for and we personally stand for.
Right.
So our motto is environment is our attitude. That goes with our logo. It's part of our logo. Environment is our attitude.
Right.
So, but then we found these designers overseas, and they said no, it can be done sustainably. And so we said let's give it a try. So that way we then did something, and we had this parcel of land. The whole city is moving that side.
Right.
So it was just that right timing. It was serendipity to find such a design firm who would help us achieve that. The market was right, the timing was right. It's coming out of the pandemic. People wanted to go a little bit away and wanted to spend on themselves. So I think it was nature was conspiring with us to save itself. So
Wow.
we have a sustainable golf course which does good for nature,
Nice.
and so all the stars were aligned. So
Right.
it helped.
And this project is just right before Agol village.
Yeah, it's near between Meta and Agol, so it's
Right.
about a couple of kilometers before Agol.
Right.
It's about 40 minutes from the center of town, and from
Right.
SG Road it could be about 30-ish minutes. So it's pretty well located.
Correct.
All the clubs are moving in that direction.
Right.
So people are also building first houses, and eventually after 10 years we foresee that there would be people who would commute to the ring road. It would be a 25-minute commute, and they would stay there or
Correct.
work out of home.
Correct.
So
And there's a lot of weekend home community is already
but
coming
10, 15
along right
years,
there.
exactly. But 10 to 15 years, I think all of that are going to be, a lot of that is going to be first home.
First home.
Not only our projects, but several other projects.
Nice, very nice. Pawan, you also have some amazing projects coming up in Gift City. You're putting a lot of energy there as well. So just if you can share something about that.
Sure. So we have two projects, both 33 stories. In fact, our residential project is spread over 3 buildings. They're interconnected, but they're catering to 3 different requirements.
Right.
The large apartment format, the mid-size, and the small apartment
Right.
formats. Because at Gift there'll be various kinds of needs. So they're all being addressed. So we're very excited about that because our project is very well located on the Gift riverfront. So
Right.
we have lovely views, unimpeded views.
Nice.
And our commercial project, so our design is almost complete. It's we have submitted it to Gift for approval, and then once we get the RERA approval, we'll launch it formally. And our commercial project, we don't know how that's going to pan out in terms of design. That's also on the riverfront. That's in the SEZ portion,
Right.
where all the benefits are given.
Mhm.
And with now foreign universities also allowed to function in Gift SEZ portion,
Right.
and then be able to repatriate their profits overseas, their Indian profits overseas. I think that's a big game changer. The Ministry of Education, the government, the central government has taken to invite foreign universities to India, which was not happening because of this repatriation issue.
Right.
So that is a very very important fact and decision that was taken, because without knowledge being created here,
Right.
all that knowledge was going overseas and then staying overseas,
Right.
right? So as a nation, yes, some people were coming back, but we were not really benefiting from knowledge which was generated overseas, and also knowledge which was generated in our own citizens, and our
Right.
own students.
Right.
That was used for the benefit of other nations.
Right.
So this is a game changer. And I think that will give further fillip. And also the metro will be operational. Its pace
Right.
is rapid.
Right.
So by 2024, I think they are on target. So it will be operational. So that will be another game changer. So when
Nice.
you're from anywhere in town, you are there at Gift City in 20 odd minutes.
Right. Very
Without
nice. So you have-
stress. Yeah. So
you
we're
have-
very excited about both projects.
Super, and they both are on its own are like really nice projects.
Yeah,
Gift
they're both
has a
large
story
projects,
of
about
its
8,
own.
10. Yeah, both are
Yeah.
about nearly close to 1 million square feet of
Correct.
built up area.
Correct. And golf community in that locality, there is none right now, and the price point also that you
Yes,
offer.
at Silvan Golf and Country Homes
Yeah.
in the Greater Thal neighborhood.
Right.
At the price point that we are launching, it's almost impossible to launch.
Correct.
Obviously, we hope not to remain at that price point.
Right.
But
Right.
once we reach a certain stage in the next few months and the next year or
Right.
so, we hope to change that, and get
Good
some
luck with
return.
that.
Yeah, get some financial
Right.
reward as well.
Super.
But, yeah.
Pawan bhai, as a tradition of this interview series, we have some set of questions that are rapid fire questions. So I hope it's okay if I just shoot some questions, instant questions at
Fire
you.
away.
All right. Okay. So your favorite vacation destination?
Something which I would see for the first time on every visit.
Okay. All
So
right.
it's like Jack Kerouac, the famous American novelist, said in his book On the Road in the 1960s, which is a cult book, that the purpose of all travel is to return to the place from where you started and to see it for the first time. If I go out of Ahmedabad and come back to Ahmedabad and see it for the first time, I'm completely changed because I'm not looking at the same city that I was looking at when I left for my break, for my travel. So I'm completely changed, and so that's a way of looking at my city is completely changed. So my favorite destination is one which I look for the first time every time I go, even the second, third.
What a perception change that is. That's amazing. That's how you look at a vacation, right?
Yes.
Generally, people have destinations in mind, and you have a complete different perspective in mind. Amazing. If not a developer, what would you have loved to become?
An academician. And that you must have figured out by
Yeah,
now.
figured out by now. Yes. Right. That was no brainer. Your favorite book and why?
I have several, but one that had made a lot of impression and continues to, because I question myself, my individual growth because of that book. I mean, one always questions, but that kind of sort of crystallized some of my thought processes. Was Hermann Hesse, the 1946 Nobel Prize winner in literature, was a German, for his book Siddhartha. But his other book, so I've read Siddhartha. That also is an impressionable book.
Okay.
But also Narcissus and Goldmund by Hermann Hesse. So that kind of left a mark.
Wow.
Say.
Great.
And why? Because I think that typically we say, okay, this guy is a saint and he has quit life and he's focused completely on himself or herself, he or she. So that's Narcissus for you. And Goldman is somebody who enjoys life, does everything, good and bad and everything. And at the end of the day, where do they stand at the end of the book? And you think that, well, it should be Narcissus, but actually it's Goldman who is more spiritually bold. Because he has learned from experiences.
Right. He has more experience together
exactly.
in life to learn
and more introspection because of those experiences.
Wow. That's amazing. I'd like
It's
to
a
have a read of
different
that
way
book.
of-
I'll try to figure it out.
Yeah.
If you could go back in time, one thing you would like to do differently?
That's a tough one. I guess. Again, being an academician.
Okay, you would have loved to become an
Yeah, I think so.
rather than being a developer. Okay, that's what you are by heart. Okay, super. Your favorite building or a project not developed by Bakeri?
Quite a few, but one which I like to go back again and again is the
Right.
Guggenheim Museum in the Upper East Side of Manhattan.
Okay.
Guggenheim, which was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright.
Right.
So I think that's very unique
Okay.
in terms of the kind of light it allows the building to have, in terms of the way you experience the gallery,
Right.
the way you ascend and descend along with the artwork.
Nice. Okay, I haven't been
Something.
there, but if I go back again to New York, I'll try to visit.
One I
that
saw
place.
very recently was the Louvre in Abu Dhabi. That's also incredible in terms of the architecture.
Okay.
Again, designed by Jean Nouvel, the French architect.
Okay.
So that also is very, very different, and a lot of computer IT must the computer design, aided design would have been used for a structure like that. So
Nice.
even for the design perspective, not only structural design but even the architecture. So,
Right.
so those kind of things are not possible without computers these days.
Right. One word to describe Anil sir.
His unassailable integrity, I would say.
Absolutely, and I'm sure the entire city is going to agree with that. One thing you love the most about Anil sir.
His simplicity.
Wow.
Simplicity.
In spite of whatever name he carries, yes. Your best friend in real estate industry.
Honesty.
Wow, that's amazing. That blew me off. Thank you, Pavan Bhai, for this lovely conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed having this talk with you. And as a gesture, we just have something to give it to you. It's a small little hamper, small little gesture from our side. Thank you very much.
Very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being with us in this TREC conversation with Mr. Pavan Bakeri. I hope you enjoyed it. Do follow us on our social media pages. Our handles are The Real Estate Connect, TREC, both on Facebook and Instagram. See you until the next time we have our next conversation with the new stalwart of the industry. Thank you.